All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the final match of Group D, the final match of the group stages in general. We're going to find out now who will go on to face Kane in the round of 8 and who will sadly be eliminated from this tournament. I am here with the last two players of Group D, Xenocider and QXC. Now, QXC, you just got off a pretty lengthy match there with RSVP. How do you feel that went for you?
I think it was fine. There was no point where I really felt like I could lose. It just took a little longer to kill him than I expected.
Fair enough. Now, Xenocider, you've had a break and you've had a chance to watch QXC in combat with RSVP, a player that you knocked down to the loser's bracket, and you are now getting a chance to face him in the TVT. How do you feel about that?
Not sure. I've been playing a bit on the EU server, and it's pretty different than on NA. A lot more Hellbat drops, so I've actually gotten a lot better at dealing with that. I don't know how QXC plays, so I guess we'll see.
QXC, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. We were talking to Dan before the break about the TVT matchup, and it seems like, as Dan was saying, that people go through phases of love and hate with it, and also it seems to be changing on like a day-by-day basis. What do you think of the state of TVT right now?
First of all, I want to tell you that he's lying because I've played him on a Smurf on EU. Yeah, I know.
Nah, man.
But TVT, it's like the more you use Hellbats, probably the more you're going to like this matchup. It just becomes really frustrating when somebody like triple medevac speeds over your army, dropping 6 Hellbats and everything disappears. But I don't know. I still think it's the best mirror matchup. I don't feel like there's a lot of luck involved. There's very few real coin flips in this matchup. The better player generally wins.
Now, Xenocider, I think he just called you out there. He claimed that you have a Smurf on EU and QXC's played you. You don't think that's true?
I've played QXC on EU, but I don't think there was any mech. I think I just won 4-0 or something. I can't remember.
That was pretty dismissive. It's like, oh yeah, he's just this random guy. Alright, okay. Well, this is going to be an explosive TVT, I think, between the two of you. I've got to ask, is facing Kane really a reward for getting to the round of 8?
I'm actually not worried about Kane. I think his peak time has passed, and he's been slumping a little bit recently.
Ah, okay.
I was never afraid of Kane. In fact, I don't think I've actually ever dropped a single map against Kane. I think I'm 9-0 against him on ladder or something. So I actually wanted to win this match and get second place so I can shut up all the hype surrounding Kane, but, whatever.
I almost just asked that question for the sole reason of getting just a little bit of an idea that this is actually WWF going on right now. Yeah, I'm not afraid of Kane. We can take him out. That's absolutely wonderful to hear. Oh, man. We do need more wrestling-themed players in this game, I've got to say. It's got to be done. We got some great handles going on there. But, Xenocider, final words for QXC before you go into this match. We're going to kick it off on Belshire Vestige.
I think if you try to get Hellbats out, then you're going to get Saunt, buddy.
QXC?
I don't need Hellbats.
Alright, let's see how it goes. Guys, thank you very much to your stations, and we will be watching you guys face off momentarily. Alright, Frodan, some confidence from both of these players going into this, no real question about that. But it is a big toss-up in my opinion.
Yeah, I like what QXC was saying, that the mechanically better player, or not the mechanically, but the better player usually wins, and I do agree with that for the most part. I did kind of lobbied a little bit of frustration for myself in playing TVT, just because, just kind of like what QXC said, it just felt like the more you use Hellbats, the more success you often see, and it's not necessarily just starting off with Hellbats, it's mid-game Hellbats drops with 3 of them, or it's Hellbats in your composition. I want to see what QXC is going to go, because he says he doesn't need Hellbats, but everyone could use a little Hellbats in their life, don't you think, TV?
I definitely agree with this. As someone that Hellbat drops and is proud of it, damn right they need more Hellbats. I mean, right now, Hellbat drops are generally extremely efficient. They're great units. You can mix them in with your composition to give a lot more nice meat and area of effect that you wouldn't necessarily have as a part of a Terran army. I love Hellbats, and I would be interested to see how these guys defend against them, because as much as they're saying, oh yeah, we won't go Hellbats, guys, we really won't go Hellbats, they're secretly in the back of their mind saying, I wonder how many Hellbats I could sneak into his mineral.
Well, only time will tell. It is Belshir Vestige, so a mech is more than possible on this map. Other than that, I think in general tanks are very powerful on Belshir Vestige, just because of the nature of the controlling the watchtower and the shrouds. We'll see though as soon as we get the game started. And I'm really excited because we've been casting Protoss versus Terran all day. TotalBiscuit. I'm ready for some diversity.
Yeah, totally. I'm absolutely ready for that. All right, so we'll be going into this one. Belshir Vestige and a little bit of TBT action. TBT has actually been taking significantly less time lately. That used to be the map where you say, all right, we're in for the long haul, 50-minute games, but not so much anymore because of those early aggressive options. You can do a lot more damage to your opponent in the early game, I feel, than you used to be able to in TBT.
You can go for Hellbat drops. You can, I mean, Banshees are still great. Marine Hellion drops are awesome. Even not necessarily drops, but like a Marine drop with a Hellion run by is good.
Yeah.
Hellion pokes are also great. You can open defensive Viking. I mean, you can almost do anything. And I think, the Widowmine actually introduces a lot of defensive options that doesn't make it as coin flippy, just like what QXE was saying earlier.
Yeah, I don't think he's wrong there, certainly. And we're seeing a bit of a move away from tanks in this matchup. We're seeing a bit of a move away from tanks, I think, in every matchup, considering the strength of the Widowmine. But this is a matchup where tanks will definitely benefit you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think tanks are just the core of everything. Tank Hellbat is really great. Thors, you don't really need so much in mech anymore, even though I know Thors were making a pretty big comeback in mech in the end of Wings of Liberty. I want to see how they open. The opening is almost going to decide a lot, though, just because Xenocider, he does like to go for gas tech or gas-heavy tech and to harass and expand. And QXE also likes doing some stuff similar to that, too. Whose aggression is going to work? We'll find out here.
That we will. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, Belshir Vestige. This guy right here just took out RSVP and is looking to reassert his dominance in the North American scene. He is
Complexity QXC
versus his opponent. To the northwest position in the blue trunks, playing Terran, the young hopeful. He is
Xenocider.
Young indeed. He's 15 years old, for anyone who may not know how old he is.
Yep,
that means that was like the last time Pogs was cool, right?
Something along those lines. I have to argue that Pogs were never cool. But
whoa!
Look, all I'm saying is here's my story about Pogs, right? I was the only person at my school to actually buy legit Pogs. Everyone else bought knockoff Pogs. So
yeah,
my
Pogs
were worth way, way more than their Pogs. And yet they insisted on playing the same rules. I'm not what the hell?
And trading, right?
Oh, yeah. I'll totally trade you a little fake football Pog for my shiny thing. And as a result, I think I hate Pogs because I wanted to like them and my experience was ruined by terrible people.
It's interesting because I couldn't help it, man. My Asian parents didn't want to buy the real thing, so of course they would go to Chinatown and buy the best possible Pogs there, but of course they were so cheap and knockoff. Bad memories, man. I used to get made fun of all the time. It's okay, though, because Xenocider never had to deal with that pain.
No,
instead, he might have to deal with the pain of Hellbats.
That made him a better person, I think, actually. I think the pain of Pogs is significantly worse than the pain of Hellbats. And QXE is already going to break something out here because we saw him go for the gas first. And that was something that could... I mean, this can lead into anything. There's Hellbat drop builds that are based around this. There's Banshee builds. We saw... Banshees deployed extensively in WCS NA Challenger in the match between Hart and Tasia, which Tasia ended up coming out on 2-1. And it seems like these days, Banshee can be such a build order loss, way more so than it used to be because you got way more options in the early game. Banshee could just come in and just like kill your entire worker line, like, well, I didn't build the right stuff for that, GG.
Yeah, you open Reaper into like a Hellion drop and you realize, oh, I have no anti-air.
Oh, shit.
Just completely lose everything. Ooh, this is quite convenient from Xenocider, though.
Oh, nice. Yeah, getting in there, and he sees the gas. Maybe he got a chance to click it as well and spot how much was mined, and that would have given the indicator that was a gas first play. And admittedly, I think actually the reactor coming down there might have as well. It would have at least indicated that the gas was fairly early. But we're going to see a command center behind this, so he's not going to ramp up the aggression too much. Just a single Reaper to get some information. And funnily enough, Xenocider is doing kind of the same thing, so this is going to be not as aggressive a game as I'd kind of hoped from the outset.
It doesn't have to be either, but they still can keep their options pretty... well, QXE almost overextending the Reaper slightly.
Yep.
They still can be a little bit aggressive when the first starport finishes and they can get their medevacs out, but almost, I would say half the time you also see a really quick Viking out of Terran players nowadays because they want to be defensive, maybe even two.
Yep.
Again, alluding to the Tasia versus Heart series.
Yeah, I like the Viking choice. I really, really do. It's not something that you'd usually see in this matchup, but now because of the prevalence of drop play, having Vikings is extremely good. If you're able to hold off those early drops, you may find a Terran player has invested a lot into them, a huge amount, especially if it's the Hellbat drop play. If you shut down a Hellbat drop like that, that is devastating because they have spent so much getting that early armory out, and they have dedicated so much to that strategy that you are, at that point, pretty much ahead 100% of the time.
Now, Belshir Vestige is a map that we said is very good for tanks and as a result mech, but I still think Biotank is very good as well just because of the nature of how far you keep expanding away from your opponent. And I really feel like either style is fine. I haven't actually seen Xenocider play mech before, and I've only seen him play Bio when he played against Major and WCS Challenger. I don't know if he's going to lean towards that, but for now, I would have to assume that he's still going to lean more towards that bio composition. QXE, in the meantime, we can't really tell. He was mind gaming so much in his interview, I couldn't read his intentions.
Well, he's going Hellbat, we can tell you that for a fact. The armor is coming down, and there is no engineering base, so there's no reason to do that. I guess there is one way you could turn it into. You could turn it into Thor's, but that's not going to happen. It's pretty safe to say that even though QXE... I don't know, man. QXE is the kind of guy that used to Thor drop quite a lot. I remember a great game in Wings of Liberty, the Lone Star Clash, where versus Naniwa, he actually went for this one Thor play designed specifically to break a force field on the ramp, and that's all the Thor was for, and it allowed him to win the game. It was crazy cool to watch, but it's most likely going to be Hellbats, I think, here. Yeah, there you go. There's the Hellbats coming in. So Hellbat dropping will be occurring. In the meantime, what is Xenocider actually doing? He's got a few Hellions of his own, and Hellions surprisingly good against Hellbats. I guess a lot of people don't really figure that, but they are. They're really good at dealing with it. Immediately, QXE, however, is forced backwards by a 2 Widowmine and 4 Marine drop. This is actually my favorite drop. I've been doing this on the ladder all the time. It's really good, but it looks like QXE is already on top of that.
Yep. I personally used to do 3 Widowmine drop just because 3 scans would be really annoying, but Terrans have gotten really good at dealing with the medevac. Xenocider are going to try to get into a nice position.
Interestingly enough, he only drops a single Widowmine, which has been microed and will connect, not do a huge amount, but the second Widowmine could very well go down here. The thing is, there's already Hellions in play, so right now, it's not working out too well. Xenocider does get a lot of scouting information, though. He knows about their Hellbats now.
Well, there's nothing really in the air to contest them. In fact, the medevac can just keep flying around until the Marines catch it.
Yeah. That Widowmine's still there as well. He drops the second one. Admittedly, that does... Oh, there goes the hit. Not a huge amount of damage done with that Widowmine. A scan will now clean that up. Although this one's about to go off again, interestingly enough. Let's see what it connects with. Connects with the mules, doesn't kill them.
Yep. Meanwhile, Xenocider just teching up, just being annoying in the meantime. We can see he's adding engineering bays and barracks, like we were saying. How is QXE going to handle the follow-up? Is his Hellbat drop going to be effective? I don't know. Xenocider already has tanks and Hellions and a Viking in position, so I don't think QXE's aggressive ability to drop. Meanwhile, still a lot of damage from the Widowmines in the main.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. He looks like he's going to get another shot off as well before that actually connects. Let's see if he micros it. Yeah, he takes out another SCV. So overall, 6 workers killed. I think Xenocider maybe hoped for more there, but he did force a reaction, and more importantly, kept QXE back. Like, forced QXE to not do that Hellbat drop that he was planning on doing, because he needed to defend. It gives Xenocider the chance to get a tank out, and it gives him a chance to establish his defenses more.
And from here, Xenocider is sitting on a small lead, but pretty comfortable. QXE doing, in my opinion, the right thing of going for a really quick 3rd command center. There's really no aggressive options from Xenocider, considering that he's playing really defensive. He's afraid of the Hellbat drop.
Yeah.
And you really can't move out until you get a good number of upgrades as well, considering that, again, Hellbat's around the map.
QXE's playing interestingly here. He's using a Widowmine at the front to potentially bait a bunch of his enemy units into that. That was a really awkward sentence, and I am very sorry for that. But one way or the other, it's like blither, blither. QXE is sitting on the 3rd base right now, the location that Xenocider is about to take. He, I imagine, is going to try and catch a worker transfer with this, but I think it's probably going to go off here already. Yeah, there. Actually takes a Hellion out. Then you've got this Hellbat drop to the side, then the Hellbat drop up to the top. And the Hellbat drop at the top is actually going to die. That is a really nice pick off here by Xenocider. That is going down.
Yeah, that's huge.
Nicely done. Yeah. That's really good. That kind of screwed the opportunity up. But the Hellbat drop comes in, and let's see how much damage it can actually do. Significant amounts. It takes a little bit of tank fire there as well. Hasn't done that well. It's about to get cleaned up, and it's actually still alive. There we go. It's now being cleaned up. The aggression at the front hasn't really happened. Overall damage done. Like, he only killed 5 workers with that. That wasn't that great.
Yeah, you know, I really thought he would be able to kill a little bit more. The Hellbat survived a long time, and he's managed to get both those out. But still, Xenocider pulled his SCVs just in time. Not a lot of damage done. QXC's Widow Mines also get scanned and picked off. And, QXC is not following it up with mech. He's going to go bio instead. He is playing a little bit farther behind because of it. You can see everything is just slightly delayed. The combat shields, the infantry upgrades. Although QXC isn't too far behind on the third base timing. So how is Xenocider going to be able to capitalize on this? He's going to instead load up a tank into his medevac. I thought there was a Hellbat originally. I'm like, I don't think he made any Hellbats.
Yeah, that was
Xenocider really stays away from Hellbats.
Yeah, that's an odd thing indeed. Loading the tank up seems like he'd probably just want to move it around the map quicker instead of getting it picked off there. Currently, these guys playing pretty passively. QXC's Hellbat drop is going in again. There's already a Viking there, so it may even be that those Hellbats don't even get to land, depending on how quick QXC actually is with that, and that would be another great shutdown there. Armory now being added on for Xenocider. Very well. I mean, honestly, he's been on double engineering bay for this long, so he may not even elect to actually build any Hellbats with that. He'll probably just go into 2-2.
And from there, he has a lot of other options. I really don't think, well, as you can see, the drop, the medevac taken out, but the Hellbat trying to do as much damage as possible. I really don't think this force out here from Xenocider can do very much.
Well, Xenocider just killed about 5 of his own workers with that tank shot. That's the nasty thing about that, and defending it with tanks, you end up in that situation where the tanks actually end up shelling their own compadres. And right now, Xenocider just trying to deal with the harassment of QXC, taking some damage in the process. QXC, of course, behind this has established his third base and is on a significantly higher SCV count.
That's really nice for QXC. Actually, I'm really surprised because Xenocider had the faster third command center. He also had, in terms of the placement, he also had the opportunity to kill some SCVs, but QXC climbing back with some harass. Yep. This push from Xenocider shouldn't really be able to threaten QXC, though, truthfully.
I don't think so. The production from QXC is absolutely phenomenal here. There's a slight amount of superiority, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter because... that was a huge blunder there by Xenocider. He ran right into that, lost a huge amount of units. That was uncharacteristic of him. I don't think he was just expecting that army to be there, and he wasn't quick enough with the response. He lost like 2 tanks, lost a bunch of marauders. They just wandered into this concave, and now QXC actually has the momentum, I think, to at least threaten or try and contain his opponent.
Well, interestingly enough, I can't believe it took me so long to notice, but Xenocider went such heavy amount of marauders. I think he really expected mech out of his opponent, and QXC went marine tank. Those Marauders can't even really directly engage against the Marines without major tank support, and QXC now is a huge anchor point within the main base of Xenocider. He can pick off things right out of the production.
Yeah, that's really, really nice, and he's going to try and grab as much of that as he can, and he's doing a good job of making that work. And Xenocider will get pushed back into the line of the tanks, which makes things very, very unpleasant. However, aggression is coming in. QXC is going to take out the third base. A push is going to come in from Xenocider here to try and break this. More Marines are reinforcing, though. I don't see him breaking this at all. Not with that many Marauders. They don't have the kind of damage necessary. Xenocider pulling off the line here, trying to engage against this, but the tanks then get the shelling in. I mean, QXC has the perfect position here, is engaging the third base. QXC is finally going to get cleaned up at the third, but has dealt a huge amount of damage. Xenocider is way behind its supply, and GG's immediately.
Very well done by QXC again, using that knowledge against Xenocider, and that's actually I really feel like Xenocider just tried to blind counter his opponent. He did scan QXC though, that's why I'm a little bit confused. But I guess he kept scanning the natural. I kept seeing the natural being scanned. He didn't scan the main base. Would have saw the slew of barracks. Would have stopped Marauder production because he has something like 16 to 20 Marauders, and that is just way too much gas in the wrong direction, as well as just production time on the barracks.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. He was expecting mech, and he didn't get mech. So his Marauders like, well, what are we going to do? Not an awful lot, really. Not against Marine tank. That's not going to work out too well. You know, there are situations where you can flank and do good damage with the Marauders, but no. QXC put on a really, really good stranglehold, but even then, you've got to look at that nasty engagement that happened in the center of the map, where Xenocider just wasn't paying attention. He misrallied his units, he didn't stim, and he got completely surrounded and cut off. He tries to evacuate, he loses the medevac that has the tank in it, which is even more of a sting, and then suddenly QXE seizes the opportunity, and at that point, there's really not a lot that Xenocider can do.
Yeah, I'm just kind of confused his move out timing. It was not really, the only thing it synced up was +1/+1, but even then he kind of sat there at the tower for a good minute and a half and then moved to the other tower.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really give you any tactical positioning, because in TVT you have to think about space, right? Space is just so important. If you control this avenue, then there's no counterattack. You can shut down the drops. You can make sure the tanks clip any kind of movement. But in that scenario, I just felt like Xenocider was moving out for the sake of just moving out and not really having intention, while QXC, when he moved out, said, I'm going to counterattack, I'm going to take an anchor in your main base, and you can't do anything about it.
Yep, sounds about right to me. All right, we're going to... I don't think we'll take a break, actually. I think we're good. We can go into the next game. I don't see any reason for that. We're already getting to the second lobby, so it'll be nice to round things up today. Great game from QXC. Xenocider looking a little bit shaky here. Now picks Neoplanet S. So if we don't see early aggression out of him here, then I have to wonder when it'll ever happen.
Yeah, Planet S is not actually, well, the ramp slash the main base does touch the ground a little bit, so Reapers can be pretty effective, but you don't see too much Reaper builds on Planet S, other than just one. When I'm talking about Reaper builds, I'm talking about like 2 Barracks Reaper, which has gotten actually quite popular in TVT. I want to see what Xenocider has in store. I want to see what Xenocider has in store.
Indeed. All right, we'll be going into the next game pretty much right now, I think. I don't see any reason to hang around, so we are ready to rock and roll. Let's see if QXC can close out the series 2-0, or whether Xenocider will be able to make the comeback. Neoplanet S will be the venue for that. And here we go.
Neoplanet S, a pretty good map in my opinion. I don't know why people don't like it. I guess maybe they don't like playing on it, but I like what it offers in terms of risk versus reward.
I've seen some really cool matches on this, but Neoplanet S has been the most vetoed map, I believe, in the map pool, very close to Star Station. Obviously, it depends whether or not you have Zerg in the pool. We haven't seen Star Station at all today.
That's right, we have not.
So, you know, that's indicative of a lot of things, but we've actually seen Neoplanet S twice. Alright, well, let's see. This guy is up 1 game in this best-of-3 series. Will he be able to make it through? He is.
Complexity QXC.
He is in the red trunks playing Terran to the northeast position, versus his opponent to the southwest, the young player, the very young player, looking to make a name for himself. He is
Xenocider.
And he is in the blue trunks playing Terran to the southwest.
Xenocider currently down 0-1. Let's see what he's got in store. Last time we were facing in this TVT, QXC went for a really quick gas. No such thing in this regard. One thing that is really interesting is that no Terran really seems to feel comfortable going for a gases expand. Nope.
Well, we're down, I think, either the Argentinian or the Portuguese caster, one way or the other. We will be continuing regardless. We will not be regaming for that. You will be able to restream, of course. Well, yeah, earlier gas timing. All right. Well, this is what we saw from QXC previously. The question is, what is it for?
Well, Xenocider is delaying his gas, or even going to go gas less.
He could go 15 gas. That's a possibility, and it looks like he might. Looking at his rally point, I think he's going to get 15 gas. But I'm okay with this 15 gas style, honestly. There we go.
Yeah. Is TotalBiscuit approve of it?
Yeah, not that it really matters. It's like, I think it's a great style. It's absolutely fantastic. It's really, really good if you want to go 2-base battleship. It's like Battleship's not even a real unit. That's how cool it is. But, no, don't take my advice,
It's a new legacy of the Void idea, man. You're
battleships.
disclosing very high NDA stuff.
Yeah, that's just how it's going to be. And Blizzard is beating down my door right now. But, yeah, I've seen a lot of 15 gas from Terran in Heart of the Swarm. Because it's a case of like, well, I need the gas, but do I need it right then? What exactly I'm going to do with it? And it usually results in a couple of Marines coming out and then a reactor thrown down directly after that. So you get this kind of weird swell of Marines at this odd time. And it means that you can actually be a little bit aggressive, you can poke, or you can be really defensive and not really have to worry about anything coming your way.
QXE is going to go for double Reaper opening.
Okay.
And Reapers do have a pretty decent reach on this map, much more so than maps like Whirlwind. Not as much as Star Station, which in my opinion is probably why a lot of Protoss players veto that map
Yeah,
against Terran. And see how Xenocider holds it off, because double Reapers can just end the game super quick if you're not careful. And if you tech really hard and you stop adding units on, who knows?
Well, that wasn't so good. Sent the SCV up the ramp there, and it just got immediately obliterated. It would have been nice to have one there, because we have seen this play which involves getting an actual bunker up on the high ground. If that happens, it's extremely difficult to dislodge the Reapers from that particular position. It delays the expansion significantly as well. SCVs, of course, can't go down the mineral, can't go down the ramp. But Xenocider is about to start his double Marine production. Now, let's see how we can deal with this. The double Reaper comes in, and the cool thing about the Reapers in this situation is you can pick away at the Marines, and you can then dip out. Ooh, that was so close. You can dip out and then heal. But that's 2 Marines down, and now it's going to be, what, 3, maybe even 4? Yeah, it's going to be 4 Reapers that hit him the next time around.
And it's gonna be tough because Xenocider, he wants to switch production. This is really greedy, and I think Xenocider senses also he might need more than just these 3 Marines to hold off the 4 Reapers that come up. QXC is walking into a trap. QXC, they won't have much space to back up. He does manage to take out one of the Marines though.
Yeah, he lost a Reaper, though, in the process. And once these Hellions are out, these Reapers are probably not going to do all that much. Reapers can beat Hellions, but they've got to play hit and run against them. You can't just fight straight up against double Hellions, especially not with Marines coming back there. Some damage done. Not as much as QXC would hope, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it was a really nice defensive maneuver. I've never personally pulled SCVs, and I think I should be in that scenario, just because, again, QXC went up the wrong ramp. If he just went up the regular way, actually,
that would have been
worked
amazing.
out for his benefit.
Yeah, Xenocider rolled the dice on that one, and it worked out pretty well. We've got Widowmines coming in, looking potentially for a drop play here. Quite likely to be a drop play. Could be Hellion Widowmine. That would be pretty nice to see. That would actually do significant damage. You've got the Widowmines going down, and then as the SCVs are pulled, they line up automatically. So that means that the Hellions can actually get really good shots off on them, which is a nice little technique. But we'll see if he decides to actually do that.
Yeah, from here, Xenocider has to know that he feels very comfortable with his opening, just because QXC put so much gas into those 4 Reapers. It's 200 gas, which you can't underestimate.
Yeah.
And so his anti-air defense or his anti-medevac defense is a little bit tough, because QXC, you can see his starport is just finishing, or sort of just starting his first medevac.
Yep.
So even if he had the first Viking, QXC will have a hard time dealing with this.
Reapers suddenly realizing they can't shoot up, so they're not going to be defending too well against this. And a Widowmine put into play, and it is going... Oh, nice scan. That was so quick there by QXC to scan that and get rid of it. Didn't manage to get a Widowmine down into the natural. He's still being aggressive here, but I think QXC's got this without too much of a problem. Boost goes in, and maybe he drops the Widowmine, but I think it's just going to die if he tries. So this has been nicely shut down here by QXC.
I still think forcing a scan, or even if you can get the second Widowmine and force another scan, would make Xenocider's position a lot stronger, just
definitely.
because, again, QXC's expansion is a little bit later.
Yeah.
Just slightly.
Counter drop play here from QXC, looking to try and do some damage. The Widowmines are, of course, at the front here for Xenocider, and we'll see where he decides to put the tanks. He's got one down the front. If he puts the second one where I think he's going to, this drop could actually do damage. Xenocider is still postured, but with a 9 HP medevac, it's very, very risky to attempt this. Just one false move and it goes down. Xenocider will instead decide to place this Widowmine on the third base to try and deny the expansion and, of course, scout it. QXC is now tracking this, and he could combine the Reapers with this push here. He's got Hellions, he's got the drop ready to go into the back. This could be dangerous, but that tank, of course, is going to shut down the push at the front immediately.
Yeah, the 2 tanks completely puts Xenocider in a strong position, and the third command center has been discovered by QXC, so he realizes, oh man, my third timing is a lot later. But again, that's kind of the risk that he took. Oh, Xenocider getting a little overeager with the Viking and loses as a result. That's a nice pick off, but still QXC realizing that if he draws this out too far, well, he has to be really careful, because right now Xenocider will have a strong lead in the mid game based off production because of how fast this third command center finished.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Now, we've got Xenocider moving back with this injured medevac. He'll be able to fix that up. Currently, we're in a situation where things are pretty equal, 44 SCVs apiece, with QXC with a slight supply lead, but of course that supply is sunk into Reaper, which is not really going to help him all that much. So we're in a weird stalemate position with Xenocider going for Biotank, and his opponent also going for Biotank.
Yep. Marine tank is just really good combination. You need mobility on this map. Even though you can go mech, it's a little trickier to cover both areas. I mean, you've seen players like Flash and Innovation, even Ty on Team 8 likes to do mech.
Yep.
I think. Oop, this QXC does almost lose that medevac. I thought he was gonna not pay attention to that, but I think right now these guys, even though it might seem like QXC is a little bit behind the mid game, it still doesn't mean that Xenocider has a license to just push like he did in game number 1.
No.
Just because you have a production slight advantage, you can't do that. You have to take the map slowly, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially if it's Marine tank versus Marine tank. That's the kind of situation where one blunder costs you your army. So it's not a situation that you can just play laissez-faire with. It's not going to work out for you at all.
Well, see, the thing is, right now Xenocider is also doesn't have map control whatsoever. So and I like that QXC is also still using these Hellions and then Reapers to control the map. It tries to see if he can move out, if there's anything he has to be wary of. Xenocider also is moving his tanks out towards the natural and the third, so you can get a good spot of it, avoid drops. But pretty soon it's going to get to the point in game TotalBiscuit where neither player can really drop without the other person knowing.
Yep, that's very true. QXC's third was denied quite nicely there by that Widow Mine for a reasonable length of time. And then it was taken out just as the missile turret finished. Some damage was done, but not a huge amount. And now QXC is in a situation where he's got to get that saturated pretty quickly because Xenocide has already done that. Both of these guys posturing and not really doing a huge amount, and sensor towers being set up. So I think we're in for the long haul here.
Yep, I hope you guys brought snack because it's going to be a couple minutes before we see any true amount of action unless one player decides to impulsively push. Don't think if QXC is kind of making aggressive movement, but he's already taking some damage on his tanks, and that's something you really have to consider because tank shots is something you calculate in your scans. You know that you have to take a couple tank shots in order to get into position with your own tanks. I don't know if QXC really intends on taking too aggressive a position because if Xenocider sees it, which he does with his sensor tower, I don't think he should be able to take any damage.
Xenocider's drop got shut down on the right side there. He did a little bit of damage, but nowhere near enough to justify it, in my opinion. Just a couple of workers killed here and there. QXC stimming quite a lot with 3 medevacs there. I mean, these guys are on full energy, so they should be fine, but I'm more worried about the fact that this isn't fixed, and there's 2 damaged tanks in that composition, so going in against Xenocider here doesn't really seem to make a huge amount of sense. We have the world's slowest Hellion here to the side that was stuck in the pack of Marines, just escorting them along there. Reminds me of old cars where they used to have the guys in the bowler hats walk in front of them with little flags. That was pretty much how it ended up being. And now we're going to see an engagement. Let's see who gets the best of this. QXC does not want to engage into that.
No, he's outnumbered in almost everything.
Yeah.
And even the medevac count, which might not seem like that big of a deal, but it kind of is. In TVT especially, fights become so ridiculously one-sided, even just by the smallest factor, like 1 extra tank or 5 extra Marines, and you can win overwhelmingly. Now, both players really need to see how many scans they have available and really trying to feel each other out. And you really need to you also don't want to give up the high ground, which is something that Xenocider is really trying to do, making sure that it's not like QXC can run up any ramp. And Xenocider is going to take a really nice spot. It's going to be huge damage on QXC's army.
Kaboom! Bits of tank fly everywhere. Great engagement there by Xenocider. And now he can back off. He picks up another tank. Now he just needs to back off. No, don't engage into that. Don't throw away your advantage. Great moves, but QXC is about to drop on top of it. And does absolutely nothing.
Well, that didn't last very long. I really thought QXC had Hellbats in it because I saw a big chunk of units
There was a tank
inside
in it, and it just like died immediately.
Are you sure about this, QXC? It's like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, that didn't work out well. Xenocide is in a great spot now. 10 tanks to 6, and he's got oh no, QXC! That is ridiculously hurtful. Like that is so offensive that you would take that to the teacher, and the teacher would expel the person that did it immediately without even asking for their side of the story. QXC, what are you doing?
Those Marines were like lemmings, man, just following one another to each other's deaths.
Yep, and the third just went down, and now QXC is actually firing, takes out the third of his opponent. Xenocider is pushing towards it. If QXC can hold on to his third after his opponent's lost that, then he might be in a good spot, but he still has to deal with the fact that there's tanks everywhere.
Yeah, there's tanks here pushing onto his third base. He can't really hold the natural whatsoever. QXC loses almost everything there, and sure, he shut down the third base, but he can't hold off the main force. A nice little tactic. QXC drops onto the tanks that are sieging his third base. Regardless, though, Xenocider seems to have stabilized back at home. QXC, he's losing a lot here, and the biggest thing is that Xenocider's been able to get a good position. There's no way that QXC can really engage this. It is not like he has any Vikings to spot. He has a low Marine count, so he can't really catch a lot of tanks on siege. In fact, I feel like Xenocider can unsiege some of his back tanks and just start pushing forward unsieged at this point.
Yeah, QXC does still have his third base, but the thing is that Xenocider had a spare command center. He was able to just reline and keep mining again. If that third legitimately died and there was no spare command center, I'd say QXC has a really great opportunity to get back into this game. But as it stands, this is going to be very difficult for him. He is contained. He does not have a way to deal with that.
And it's not impossible for QXC to break it.
Definitely
since,
not.
He still has his third, but the position is still really tough. Although I like that QXC sent some medevacs to reinforce his third base. Viking from QXC also pushing back some of the medevacs to the natural. A lot of action happening, but QXC seems to be holding on as tight as he can.
But yeah, I like this. QXC starting to pick off medevacs here just above this force, which is great because it gives him that air superiority, which lets you spot, and it forces your opponent to use scans. Taking out 2 medevacs for free is nice. QXC continues to hold on, and the supply count is starting to even up. Right now, QXC is holding this third base, but Xenocider is making a huge push into it.
Xenocider is really trying to take out this third base. He knows he can cripple his opponent. QXC lifting because he knows it's a bad situation, but he does have some reinforcements on the low ground. But still, Xenocider is able to pick up this command center. Huge lead. Big flank from QXC, though, over at the natural base. Finally takes out the tank force that was there outside of his natural expansion. Xenocider, he did lose a lot of army there, but at the same time, QXC sacrificed a lot in order to break the contain.
Yeah, he did. And losing the third as well is a big deal. He didn't have a spare command center, and right now there's still an army sitting on it. So QXC can clean that up, but it's a good position for Xenocider to do a lot of damage to his army, and Xenocider can afford that with 3 bases operational. I don't think QXC can. QXC's just going to run right up the ramp, right into a huge tank force, and take a lot of damage in the process. It looks like he's going to be able to break this, but at what cost?
Cost of a lot of army. Now, QXC did have +3 finish just as he engaged, and it was actually a great timing for him to move in there, if any. And he is kind of mined out of his main base. There's not too much to worry in that regards, but he does have to start thinking about a 4th base just because Xenocider has been relatively uninterrupted this entire time, and he has another command center, just like you're pointing out. He's able to replenish it and continue to add to his lead. So QXC still has a sizable force. He doesn't have to leave the game just yet, but still, it's a tall order for him to overcome, considering that now his upgrade advantage has been negated.
Yeah, and it's actually about to be exceeded. If he takes an engagement within the next 15 seconds, then Xenocider will have 3-3, whereas he will not have that +3 armor. And that will make a difference in the Marine versus Marine war. Xenocider rolls out here and looks to try and secure a 4th base, and QXC can't really do much about this. So, now we're in an awkward spot. Does QXC just start to aggressively drop all over the map again to try and deal with the fact that his opponent has superior position and army size? Possibility. QXC stims forward. A quick lift there by Xenocider, and in fact, all the tanks got lifted up there, so QXC got a decent engagement, but now he's rolling right back into there. He can't take that fight, surely. Xenocider is not stupid enough to run into that tank line.
No, it's a cute move from Xenocider to do that because I think he recognized his opponent didn't have any tanks to support those Marines, and he knows in a straight-up fight he has 3-3 compared to 3-2, so he's able to take that fight, all saving his tanks. Meanwhile, we see that QXC finally bringing his Vikings to try to get position, but in the meantime, Xenocider are going to triple drop QXC, either his third base or his main, and that can be extremely lethal blow considering that that's the remnants of QXC's economy.
Yeah, QXC also has like a bunch of Marines and a tank up to the southeast position there, which means that this main army from QXC is a lot weaker than it should be, and there is no defense on that third base. Those +3 Marines are going to massacre it.
And that's going to put QXC in a really awkward position. He runs back home, but it's not going to save the command center. Meanwhile, the run by has been pretty easily dealt with considering that Xenocider has tanks and easy reinforcements. I think this is slowly getting to the last moments. As soon as Xenocider can take a good position and flush out the rest of QXC's army, Xenocider will have in a great position to just finish the game.
Yeah, and QXC tries to defend as best he can, but I mean, you look at the economy, it's a mess. You don't have your third base anymore, you got 27 workers that don't even have any minerals to mine, and you have a smaller army, and you're slightly ahead in upgrades with the +1 there, but it's 11 tanks to 6 in favor of your opponent. This is not going to go well. If QXC can come back from this, it will be a miraculous display of TBT prowess. He's not out of it yet. And, you know, we could say that the armies are actually quite equal because of that low worker count, but I'm not necessarily liking the position of QXC here, not by any stretch of the imagination.
No, and by all means, QXC should still stay in this game because he has an enormous army. It's just that he has to make this one army work, and that's what makes it so difficult because no matter what, DVT, you will be trading unless you completely catch your opponent off guard, not paying attention to the army. Xenocider just doing what he can to zone, but he really needs his tank support. I do think that Xenocider needs to start locking down different avenues because QXC's been given too much mobility. That said, I think the sensor towers was really good to try to lock down those avenues. But QXC, I mean, what can he really do? He still has so much supply room, but he has to move his last remaining orbital in order to get some semblance of minerals.
Yeah, he's adding more tanks into the mix. He has to get one ridiculously good engagement and then at least take one base away from his opponent. That's what he's got to do. I think if he can hold this position... Oh, man. Xenocide is already on him. He knows he's got to expand, and he takes more SCVs away from him and forces his opponent back, which is messy indeed. Then gets the cleanup on the drop, which attempted to prevent the fourth base from going back down again from Xenocider. So things are looking absolutely fantastic for him. It's currently 137 supplied, 183. There's 19 workers. Army supply is in favor of Xenocider now as well. So all the cards are in Xenocider's hand. It really is up to QXC to pull a miraculous bluff, a really good move. He stims in, but it's not quite enough, and the tanks get established, and the shelling comes in as well. SCV sent forward here. Lovely move by Xenocider to weaken the tanks as the splash does damage here. A quick move up, but another tank shelling taking here several times. There's tanks everywhere. Oh, QXC is completely trapped in a crossfire here. He's pretty much dead by the looks of it at this stage.
Yep, QXC has no real amount of Marines to support any tanks. He is heavily outmatched. QXC trying to go for tactical drops with Ignite Afterburners, but there's really nothing QXC can do. He even tries to bluff in this regard, but or actually just get some vision for his tanks.
Yeah.
Xenocider, he has a fourth base. I mean, QXC barely is mining anymore. I feel like Xenocider, if he can kind of calculate everything, make sure to know that he's not mining, he would be able to be a lot more anxious in pushing because he doesn't have vision on the other side of the map.
Yeah, there's a big drop coming in towards that fourth base as well, which is not a planetary. That means it dies to those 3-3 Marines in about 5 seconds flat, as we are about to see. That is probably going to be the coup de grace, I think, and there it is. GG! Xenocider takes it to 1 apiece.
Really well done. A lot of movement back and forth. And I like that Xenocider really emphasized sensor towers. One of the easiest ways is just like that last drop or many drops we've seen before that is the run-bys with Marines to just kill off workers, kill off the command center in those late-game scenarios. Again, sensor towers are fairly underrated. Xenocider covered all of his bases in that regard, so I guess it doesn't matter if he doesn't have offensive vision, but if he can keep track of all the avenues of attack, he'll be good to go.
Oh, yeah. Now, where the hell are we in terms of this series? We saw Xenocider play a masterful Marine tank play, as far as I'm concerned. QXC seemed not to be able to keep up with him in that regard. Now, I suppose the question then becomes, what do we see? Do we see a lot of aggression coming out of the gate from either of these guys? We did see that big Reaper play. It did not work out well for QXC.
Yeah, and it could have. Just Xenocider dealt with it really well, and you can't really blame QXC for trying that. But now that it's already been said and done, I think Xenocider has shown that his build order is very versatile in the opening. And I want to see how QXC chooses to adapt, because we haven't seen any kind of movement for Banshees or anything else. We've just seen kind of Reaper openings from QXC.
It is very true. Alright, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be looking into Game 3, the final map of Group D, the final map of the round of 16. Will it be Xenocider? Will it be QXC going through to face Kane in the round of 8? We'll find out after this break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The final map is here. It will be Whirlwind. This could take a while.
Oh yeah, we could we could be here for a long time. Whirlwind is a huge map, something like 16 bases or something like that.
Yeah,
Absolutely
it's
absurd.
pretty ridiculous, quite frankly. And, well, it's a pretty good option, I think, for the final map. If you like TVT, you're going to get plenty of it here.
That's right. We might literally see every type of unit in the game here.
That would be pretty cool.
Ranging from bio to all the way up to the tier 3 air for Terran.
I would love to see that, man. I really would. We haven't seen enough BCs in super late game TVT lately. That was a thing that was happening a little bit in Wings of Liberty, but just is not happening anymore, and that saddens me.
It does, and Ravens have really empowered, because Seeker missiles have gotten a lot better in terms of their indirect damage. So Ravens are really, really valuable. And I love seeing the Raven Viking battlecruiser chess match. It's really nice to watch because the mirror matchups in late game, like Broodlord versus Broodlord, is kind of lame, and Colossus versus Colossus is not, or Void Ray versus Colossus, whatever that kind of composition in PvP is not nearly as entertaining as watching Terrans be able to scan and really position themselves correctly.
I would tend to agree. We're going to be going into the game momentarily. And I think Xenocider proved that he can definitely play the older style of TBT. He is clearly ready for... Sorry. He is ready to handle that kind of thing without too much of a problem. And that's the kind of thing that I feel is it's a style that is most suited to very experienced players with a ton of game awareness. And it seems like a player like Xenocider would not really have that, but he does.
It's definitely one of the hardest things to explain. I remember trying to learn TVT from Fuser when he was here in the US, and he was trying to really coach me. And it was just one of those things where I felt like I was talking to like a Finnish Yoda. He was like, "You must feel the matchup. You must not do this." And I'm just like, "Fuser, how do I transition to late game?" He's like, "You must build tanks here, and you must position here." And I'm like, "Can't you just tell me a general concept?" And he's like, "No, you have to learn how to play it through thousands and thousands of games." His voice obviously dropped 5 decibel levels after I asked him a serious question. But the point is, TVT is one of those matchups where it's just tough to explain to somebody without them experiencing it there.
Yeah, unfortunately, no one can know what the TVT is. You have to see it for yourself. Oh man, a TVT is the matchup which I just lose every game. I am actually 0% win rate for TVT in this season. It's just awful. I love watching it, and I have no understanding of how to play it properly.
It's tough because no matter what, even a build order opening is just an opening, and you can easily just crumble if you don't know where to position yourself. And it's very map dependent as well. There's so many small little tank spots that you can really take. And if you're playing mech, that's the crux of your army. But that said, I want to also point out that while Whirlwind might look like a map that's bad for mech, it's also a map that we've seen a lot of players play mech on, despite it quote-unquote being tough to cover your area, right? Whirlwind's supposed to be really expansive, a lot of counterattack paths. Is mech really good? I do want to say that if there's a time to play mech, it's not necessarily the best to play on Whirlwind, but it's very doable, and we've seen players like Flash execute it to perfection.
All right. Well. We will be going to this game momentarily, and we will be seeing something. It's hard to even see. It's hard to say, I think, in this position what we'll be seeing, because we've seen so many radically different styles from both of these players already in this tournament.
Yeah, completely agree. And remember, the winner of this goes on to play Kane in the round of 8, which will be tomorrow. As TotalBiscuit will be casting with Idra, which would be a really fun thing to watch.
I have no idea how that's going to go. Not a clue. But I'm interested to find out. And we just got kicked out of the lobby. God damn it.
Well, that was a quick game 3 then, huh?
Yeah, that was pretty quick. So this is now the 3rd time we're having to recreate the lobby. Battle.net is definitely not liking us today. We will be in momentarily. You've been seeing this versus screen for like the past 3 minutes, which is like a little bit unfortunate. Oh, come on. Let's get it going. I want to see this final map. I'm really curious to see who actually goes through here.
Yeah, I want to see what QXE has in store. Does he have more Hellbats like in game number 1, or does he have more Reapers like in game number 2?
It's a mystery to everyone.
You know what they say, though? There's a Chinese proverb, Total Biscuit.
What is that?
Man who dropped many hellbat, see world burn.
Right.
That's so terrible.
That was actually awful, but yeah, I'll take what I can get at this stage. It's like, quick, fill for time, say something mildly funny. It just doesn't happen, and we're just like, yeah. There's only so much you can fill time for when things are taking this long, when you're at the end of like a 6-hour cast.
Yeah, it makes sense too. Although no one will be epically as bad as the NFL Super Bowl caster or commentators. Those guys, I swear they must have told me the same play like 7, 8, 9 different times. And by then, I'm pretty sure I could have ran a play action football snap by then.
That's very much a possibility. Do we have everybody? Who are we missing? Please get into the game. Otherwise, I will just go away. I'll leave the cast. I'll just let you solo cast it. I'll lock you as the observer and we'll go. It'll be awful. Not to say that your solo casting's bad, I'm just saying that Blizzard's observer locking feature is really not very good.
I get it, man. It's totally cool. Totally cool. If you need me to, I can. I can, Total Biscuit. I actually used to solo cast all the time. All the time.
Back in the day.
Because no one else used to cast with me. Forever alone.
Oh, that's so sad. It's alright, you have your hetero life partner Greetorp now, so everything's cool.
Good times. Alright, so, second time, will it be the charm on Whirlwind?
Hope so. I'm sick of seeing this loading screen.
It is. I really feel like we're about to play some epic mono battles or something because of how many people are in this lobby.
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy. It's like, oh yeah, let's load 10 people in here, but like pedal fast and please don't drop anyone. If we drop a caster, I'm just going. I'm sorry, I'm going to be mean and unreasonable. We're good. We're good. We haven't dropped anyone. This is really, really good. So everyone can actually get set up. QXE takes his red, and then there's the second one. Things are looking good. Please don't break. Please don't break. Go, go, go. Yes, Whirlwind. We want to see TBT. We want so desperately to see TBT, and we are finally into the map. Ah, what a day. What a day.
It's been a long day, but we had a lot of fun. State qualified first from the group as he defeated both Terrans and QXE and Xenocider. RSV, in the meanwhile, has been the first eliminated. The last spot will go to either of these two players. Total Biscuit, why don't you take away introductions?
Let's do it. To the southwest position of Whirlwind in the red trunks, playing Terran. His name is
Complexity QXC.
Versus his opponent. To the northwest position, also playing Terran in the blue trunks. Currently teamless, he is
Xenocider.
That's right, he is teamless, though he is, again, very young. In fact, almost everyone was teamless that was in this group today, right?
3 out of 4.
QXC.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised to see State not having a team, especially considering how well he's been playing. Admittedly, I guess he fell off the map for a little while, but now State is just rocking it. I remember when State used to be on Vile. That was a long time ago.
That's right. Him and Illusion were on Vile together.
Damn right.
And they both came over to Quantic in that huge merger, so to speak.
Yep, and then unfortunately, I believe as a result of the dissolution and then the recreation of Quantic, State found himself teamless.
That's right. But I also know that State was trying to balance studies right now with, or I don't even know if it's right now with StarCraft 2, but I knew that he was focusing on it for a while. Good to see him go through the group. Again, if you missed it, you can catch the VODs on this channel. But overall, really impressed with State's play. And now we'll see who's going to follow up this in the runner-up position, whether it's Xenocider or QXC.
Hard to call, man. QXC is going... we will see 15 gas from QXC. Yeah, we're definitely going to see 15 gas. It's like going gasless doesn't seem like the way to go. But Xenocider did take his refinery before his barracks, so we will see what he decides to do. He may go for the double Reaper play against his opponent. That could work out. But we're seeing the kind of response that we saw from Xenocider. And I don't like Reaper on this map, if I'm totally honest. And it's just because of how ridiculously difficult it is to get into the base.
Yeah, Reaper has no opportunity to really jump from anywhere. Like the main and natural is really a tight spot.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with that notion, Total Biscuit.
Yeah, so we're actually going to see super fast factory from Xenocider. This is going to get immediately scouted. Now I guess he would have hoped that it didn't get scouted first, but it did. Now the question is, where is he going with this, more to the point? Will we actually see super fast Hellbat come out of him? We might, especially if he stays on 1 gas. We could, of course, see Banshee.
That's right. Xenocider has opened Banshee
There's a second gas.
in his games against Major. You might be on something, TotalBiscuit, considering everything's naked so far.
Yeah, I smell a bit of Banshee, possibly. Secondly, especially with that second gas going down. We'll see if he goes directly into the starport here, and if we actually see a tech lab be put down that factory for the swap. We will find out momentarily. Here comes the starport, and let's see. He's not building anything from the factory. Yeah, could be Banshee.
Regardless whether it is Banshee or not, QXC also has a pretty powerful opening. He can go for a quick command center and be safe against Banshees if he knows it's coming.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, well, we got to see that tech lab go down the next few seconds if this is actually going to be Banshee. Still not building it. What is he doing? What's he doing with this factory? Is this just for some like straight up weird, just straight up marine drop? He's building a tech lab. That's tech lab is late. Like,
yes, it is. And maybe Xenocider thought he was building it earlier, and he's lifting as if he wanted to.
Yeah.
I think it's slightly mistimed there.
Yeah,
that's
definitely
a little unfortunate.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. You know, that slows it down. The faster the Banshee can hit, the better it is. It's not hugely terrible because it does allow him to start the Banshee and the Cloak at around the same time. So it doesn't really matter that much to the timing, I don't think.
Well, it does give QXC valuable time to get his own tech up, considering that QXC is opening up Hellions. And he can get a Viking out in time if he wants to deal with it. Although QXC would also have to worry about the cloak that's coming up as well, since it is going to be 2 gas Banshee. Xenocider, though, if he doesn't do critical amounts of damage, it's going to be, well, when I say critical, I mean he gets at least 6, 7, 8 SCVs in a scan. It's going to be kind of tough for him to climb back in the mid game because his command center has been severely delayed.
Yes, it certainly has. There's a Viking coming out from QXC. He is playing super cautious, but he already has that command center down. These Hellions are not going to be able to break that on their own, but they have Marines backing them up, and suddenly Xenocider is in a lot of trouble. If those Hellions actually get into the main base...
Well, it doesn't, and the Banshee has been revealed, although QXC did scan and saw the tech lab concocting something, so he knows that potentially Cloak is on the field. He is starting a Viking of his own. Great opening here from QXC. Still doing lots of damage, just stopping the SCV from building that command center. His lead is compounding at this point. Yeah,
and the Banshee did kill it. That's good, and he can bring down the Widowmine as well here, but he slowed that command center down so much, and the Banshee's actually taken so much damage that I don't even feel it's worth the risk going in there. With 1 Viking out and a 2nd Viking already on the way, yeah, he needs to repair that if he wants to do anything with it whatsoever.
Yeah, the Viking searching for the Banshee, trying to see if he can pick it off. Xenocider also trying to use that Widowmine defensively, but QXC picks off the building SCV yet again.
So good, and he even dodges the Widowmine there as well. That's a massive delay here. QXC is building up this huge lead, and he already knows what's coming at him, so even with the tech advantage, Xenocider can't do a lot with it. Cloaking against the Hellions, which is utterly unnecessary, and now he's going for this base, and there's already a missile turret there. This is... damage can still be done, but not a huge amount.
Barely, if any. Xenocider is... The Viking spots it. There's no way for Xenocider to pop in. Maybe an SCV building a refinery or something, but other than that, QXC is doing a good job keeping his opponent on his toes. He's got 2 Vikings offensively. He's got his Hellion trying to poke and see if he can kill off the SCV, but he's keeping great tabs on his opponents. And now Xenocider, he's responding by building a 3rd command center because he knows he's got to do something. He can't just play from behind like that.
Yeah, well, QXC's doing the same thing as well, and Xenocider is able to delay that, but as soon as that cloak runs out, which will be in a few seconds, he could lose this. Yeah, he most likely is going to lose this Banshee by the looks of it. The Vikings are right on top of it, and it is going down. And that Cloak Banshee tech was absolutely worthless. There is a 12 SCV lead already for QXC, and God knows how many mules that were dropped down in that period of time. Xenocider is, without question, behind in a major way going into this.
Yeah, now QXC is starting to ramp up production, and even if Xenocider tries to get his own barracks count up, it's not like he can keep up in the amount of Marines that can be pushed out here from QXC.
Yeah.
Now, what's nice, though, for Xenocider is that in the end, his 3rd command center timing isn't too far behind. So he'll still be able to keep up with mules, which can outpace the SCV's mining. Yeah. But in the end, there's no map control that he can have, because how can he really honestly defend 3 bases with such a lack of infrastructure?
with great difficulty would be the answer there. You know, unless some weird mid-game Banshee stuff happened, which is not even going to happen because QXC is building a Raven. It's like, you know what? There is the only chance of you really getting back into this game is for you to be able to sneak a Banshee in somehow and do huge damage with it. Xenocider is not even quick enough to cloak in that respect and loses yet another Banshee. So QXC is in the most comfortable position possible. The only way this is going to work out for Xenocider at this point, I feel, is if he is somehow allowed to take that third base. And the scan lands, it sees it, he knows what's coming. There's no way QXC is going to let him take that.
Yeah, and if QXC doesn't necessarily have to be aggressive and push in, but just contain his opponent slightly while being able to be safe against any other drops or counter harass, then QXC can just get a really large lead, max a lot quicker, and even though they might be on similar upgrades, QXC just has such an positional advantage. And I also say that Xenocider has a kind of a disadvantage in terms of spawn position because he only can really take 1/3 base. If he expands closer to his opponent, he's inviting disaster.
He is indeed, yeah. That's not going to help him too much at all, unfortunately. Whereas QXC will be able to take a base which is significantly further away from his opponent. Always nice. Now, this is not asymmetrical. The symmetry is rotational, so you can end up in a situation where this is not ideal for you. QXC now takes his third base, completely and totally secure, and Xenocider is just macroing as best he can, but he is behind in a big way. He's now trying to push out, and he's going to be going up against an established defensive position here by QXC.
Do you want to see that Xenocider also has to be really cautious because he hasn't started combat shields, and I'm not sure if he forgot to or he just can't afford to in regards to his production because he's trying to crank out tanks one by one. But I mean, right now he's just about to finish stim. QXC in the meantime seems to be sitting so pretty. And keep in mind that QXC also has a Viking advantage, which can't be understated enough because Vikings just control so much of whether or not the tanks can move forward or backwards, or even get some nice shots off if the opponent's being careless.
Unquestionably, and it also means that QXC is a little bit more drop-proof than his opponent, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see QXC start to try and drop here because he does have the army supply advantage, so he can kind of afford to have 8 Marines and a medevac not at the front with his army here.
Yeah, I agree. I think QXC, there's obvious weak points in his opponent's base. In fact, the turrets are now starting to come up for Xenocider, so third to the main drop is not that big of an option if he was able to break that. But in the natural, there's a nice little comfy spot with a lot of supply depots, which does hurt. You know, supply depots, when some Terran players get desperate, they drop the drop supply. That also is really nice to just completely stop their mules. And you do this, you just get a large economic advantage because look at it, QXC is just powering so hard. His supply advantage is pretty significant at this point.
It really is, and QXC is going to hit max before Xenocider, and then going to just try and take a fight, I guess. With 71 SCVs on 3 bases, nice and secure, he could do that. And unless he runs into this really horrible position where he just gets horribly slaughtered by well-positioned tanks, then he should be fine. But this is TVT! That means that can happen, and it very well could end up being very, very messy for QXC if that ends up happening. Picks up the units in the center here and is now able to pivot from that Xel'Naga watchtower and get into position. Xenocider is posturing, though.
Yeah, I don't like the way he's posturing, per se. He's at pretty... Oh, well,
QXC he gets the siege advantage there.
He left with part of his army. QXC is going to try to secret missile and try to hit these Marines. It looks like it's locked on. But there's no real tank damage done in that regards. But QXC managed to preserve his tank number, and that's going to be really tough for Xenocider to overcome.
Yeah, that was actually may very well just be the nail in the coffin right there. QXC continued to push forward. He knows that. Loses a medevac unnecessarily, but it's currently 164 supplied to 111. And now that third base in fact, is definitely under threat. There is a single tank there. QXC decides, yeah, you know what, let's just wait for all of my huge numbers of tanks before I even go in there. And sieges up, takes a lot of damage in the process. Off go the tank shells, however, and Xenocider's defense is broken now.
Yeah, QXC saying, what is up? QXC, you can't hurt of me, dropping the Manor Mules, saying, Xenocider, it's time of day.
Yep, it really, really is. It's QXC time. It is time for you to smash your keyboard, not me. Third base is down. There's the GG, and QXC will advance 2 games to 1 to play Kane in the round of 8.
very well done. Just look at how cost efficient QXC was compared to his opponent. You can see it was almost double in favor of resources lost. And you can kind of make an argument for the snowball effect of the early game, but at the same time, Xenocider a little bit too careless all game long with both his Banshees and his army in the middle of the map.
Absolutely. The opening just flat out did not work out for Xenocider, and he got caught out by that early game push, which denied the SCVs for so long. They were unable to build that command center, so it put him ridiculously far behind. The cloak did nothing, and at that point, it was really just a matter of time. Unless he was able to pull it back with a great engagement or good drop play, neither of which he had the ability to do because he did not have air superiority. Well, it was a slow and painful death there for Xenocider, and that's unfortunate. You know, he came so close to advancing and really making his way into the round of 8 to face off against Kane, but it will be the veteran QXC that advances alongside State, which I think is probably the lineup that people predicted, but not necessarily in that order.
Yeah, I don't know if people were going to say how convincingly State was able to beat QXC in some of those games.
Yeah.
Regardless, though, they still have really tough opponents heading into tomorrow, don't they, TB?
Yes, I would certainly say so. They don't have a lot of time to prepare either, quite frankly. There is so much stuff they have to think about. At least they only have one opponent to prepare for, but now we know the lineup. We do. We know what we're going to see tomorrow in the round of 8. That is pretty damn cool. So let me tell you, the matches you are going to be expecting tomorrow is going to be amazing. There's not a bad match in this selection here, and this is what we're going to be seeing. Things are lined up as follows. The first match will be Puck versus Gosu User, a Zerg versus Protoss for the ages right there. The second match will be Kane versus QXC, which will be a phenomenal best of 5. Bear in mind, this is best of 5 format now, so this is a big deal. Minigun versus Drunken Boy, and then Hello Kitty versus State. That is a selection.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy that we managed to get a pretty decent race distribution as well. It's not completely favoring one or the other.
No.
Overall, I think all these guys have made the cases that they're really strong North American players. And I don't know who's necessarily the favorite to win it all. I mean, who would you really pick here from this point on, TV?
It's really hard to say. Like, Kane is looking really strong, but I think Puck is as well. They will meet each other potentially in the round of 4 if it happens to go that far for either of them. But I also wouldn't underestimate Drunken Boy, whose actual performance has been phenomenal up to this point. He convincingly destroyed his group. And he is up against Minigun, who has stated that TVP is, or PVT in that respect, is one of his strongest matchups. But Minigun did have a bit of a rocky start in Group A, if I'm totally frank. But who knows? State is looking really strong. We do see a strong Protoss presence in the round of 8, but there will be a Protoss kill, because Hello Kitty and State will be fighting each other. So there is actually no chance. Well, there is in fact a chance of a round of 4 with 3 Protoss in it, but then again, there is also the chance that if there are 3 Protoss, then there will be another Protoss elimination in the round of 4 as well. So it's, we may still see a PvP final, that's a possibility, but considering who we've got, like QXC and Drunken Boy as the Terran representatives, and Kane and Gosu User as the Zerg, I don't see a Protoss whitewash here. No, absolutely not.
No, I have to agree with that. I do want to commend State again for a great day of play, and I think if he can get by Hello Kitty, I think he can really take on Minigun or Drunken Boy, and I think State is definitely one of the players to watch out for. And it's about time that a team looks at State and seriously considers them as part of their lineup.
I would tend to agree. State has played really, really well today, and I think he's proven a lot of people wrong, saying, oh, he's a weak Protoss in the group. No, he isn't. He's really, really good at what he does. And here it is. This is the bracket here that shows the advancement. QXC taking the games over Xenocider 2-1. QXC taking out RSVP before that. State taking out Xenocider 2-0. Xenocider took out RSVP 2-0, and then a 2-1 match against QXC for State. That leaving State with advancing with 4 maps to 1. Not bad. QXC looking a bit shakier, but still solid with 5 maps to 3, and Xenocider with 3 to 4. So close yet so far, and RSVP unfortunately being the whipping boy of today's group with a 0-4 score.
One thing I do want to commend QXC is that even though sure he lost some games, the games that he lost in, you can understand that his mechanics are still on par. A couple of decisions really hurt him, but he's still always scanning where his opponent's position is. He's still making very good decisions based off information, but sometimes overextends a little bit too much or his drops don't even work out. I think QXC still is a force to be reckoned with. And he was saying he's not afraid of Kane. I am going to be watching that TVC very closely to see if Kevin Riley can back up his words.
Man, yeah. Kane looked so scary considering the games that he played. I think that he's going to have to work pretty hard on that Terran versus Zerg in the next 24 hours because that is arguably one of the worst matches that QXC could have possibly been handed. But he seems to believe that Kane is in a slump right now. I have not seen any evidence of that at all, but let's see if he can back up his words, as he said.
Maybe it starts with QXC knocking him down a couple pegs.
Yeah, and it's like Kane retires as a pro gamer 3 weeks later after losing every game on ladder. That would, yeah, I don't know. QXC is a really strong opponent, but Kane is monstrous, so that's going to be a great matchup. I think it's very hard to call the match of the day tomorrow, but I think that QXC versus Kane could be one of the best, if not the best.
Well, it sounds like you're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow. 4 best of 5s.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be a lot.
4 best of 5s alongside co-caster Idra making his debut casting performance after being released from Evil Geniuses. Of course, we have seen him cast before. Doesn't cast a lot of events. I mean, he casts a little bit of early NASL, as you're well aware.
That's right.
But he casts mostly EG events. And that is going to be really interesting. I'm intrigued to see how his casting has evolved since then.
I'm sure you're going to get lots of nice quotables to hang on your wall.
Yep, I don't think there's any question about that one. We will not be censoring him. There's no question about that. So we'll see. You know, I'm not going to judge what he's going to say because who knows. It's a very different situation for Idra right now. But I would recommend that you tune in because one way or the other, it's going to be a rather memorable experience. The round of 8 is looking really potent. We will see, of course, who advances to the round of 4. That, I believe, will be co-cast on Sunday with Day 9, assuming that he doesn't get through to Day 3 of his Magic the Gathering tournament. And he is terrible at Magic the Gathering, so it's possible that...
Oh, man.
It's true. He's really, really bad. Like, he forgot his
told
land.
him to his face?
He flew out there, and he forgot his basic land. Are you kidding me?
Oh,
really?
Gosh.
Like, what a terrible start for him. But we'll see. If he gets through to Day 3, I'm going to have to find a different co-caster. But then the finals. The finals, ladies and gentlemen, will be played on 21st. It is currently planned to be 3 p.m. EDT, that being midday Pacific, 8 p.m. in the British Isles, 9 p.m. Central European summertime. That will be on the... I think we're just going to do it on this stream. I believe MLG is just going to push to both. So we're going to be casting that in the studio. I'm going to be casting with Axlov, and they're going to be live in the studio as well. So whoever... Let's just say if Ghost User makes it through, he's immediately going to have to get on a plane to get there in time. Because, of course, he's currently in Europe. Everyone else should have an easier time of it. But it's going to be exciting. Yeah, it's going to be the conclusion of an interesting experiment of a tournament. Obviously, today we got pretty roughed up in terms of viewer numbers. But, hey, that's what happens when you go up against an amazing tournament like WCS EU with some fantastic games and players. We'll see how it goes tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching ShoutCraft America. I'd like to thank everyone for coming and supporting the tournament today. Thank you to those of you who donated to the players. They are, of course, very much appreciative for that. Big thanks to Xenocider, who's donating his tip jar to St. Jude's Hospital, which is awesome to see. Big thanks to Jenna Bain for organizing this entire thing and being the linchpin that holds the tournament together. Big thanks to our admin, Vaqueth, as well as Zook for preparing the assets. Big thanks to you, Frodan, for giving up 6 hours of your time on a Friday afternoon.
Oh, thank you so much, TotalBiscuit. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yep, I look forward to seeing more from you in the near future. And, of course, a big thanks to the players for putting on some really entertaining stuff today. Ladies and gentlemen, my name has been TotalBiscuit, joined by Frodan. This has been ShoutCraft Group D. The round of 8 begins tomorrow. Make sure you don't miss it, and we'll see you next time.